Hey everybody, I'm Seth V. This is the Knife Center, and it's New Knives of the Week time. Let's get into it. Kicking things off with a knife that I'm personally pretty excited about, the rebirth of the Benchmade 710. Now, there was a very small run of gold class versions of this knife that have already sold out. This run is also limited, but is more attainable. There are many more of these made, so there's a good chance that you'll be able to get your hands on one of these. The price is $600, and for that you get MagnaCut steel, milled aluminum handles, and an individual serial number. This one is number 319 out of a total of 2,500, I believe. That number was picked because this year marks the 25th anniversary of the Benchmade 710. So what makes this knife so important? Well, it was actually the first knife to ever feature the axis lock, designed by McHenry and Williams, who also designed the original 710. The axis lock really was part of what made Benchmade the company that it is today. I think that's fair to say. This is the knife that started it, and it's still a fantastic knife. I own one of the original 710s, and I've carried it a lot. I really enjoy it as a big, easy knife, which is a term we've used on this channel a little bit to describe something that's quite full-sized, in this case, a full 4 inches of blade with a recurved edge that kind of functionally lengthens that blade even further. But when it's folded up, it's really slim and pocketable. This carries like a much smaller knife, almost like a magic trick. It just folds up into something that feels very, very easy to carry, which is why I carry my 710 all the time. It's a really genuinely nice knife to carry, and these modern upgrades have made it even nicer, frankly. First of all, we've got a totally redesigned kind of axis lock system. The springs are different. So rather than a kind of an Omega coil spring, these are actually same shape, same Omega shape, but it's a flat type of spring, almost like a watch mainspring, if you know what that's like. It should be much more durable. And the interface, you have these like kind of angled bars here rather than the round axis lock you might be used to. Feels great, super easy to use, maybe even more ergonomic. Action's fantastic. I like these aluminum scales because they've given a little bit of kind of chamfered shape to the handle. The original, as much as I liked it, is definitely a blocky knife, and these new chamfers kind of help give it a more contoured and comfortable feel. Super nice. I'm excited about this. I think the color scheme works really great. Kind of a black and tan, black and gold look going on. Looks and feels fantastic. And at $600, it's a lot to ask, but given the limited nature and given kind of what this knife represents for Benchmade, I think there's a good chance that these will sell out pretty quick. So if you really want one, there's just going to be this one run of them. Definitely get your orders in now. Next up, we've got a couple of new Knife Center exclusives from ProTech. The PT Plus with Cru-Wear steel in either black DLC or smoky gray DLC. We had these in green and in red. We thought we'd tone it down a little bit for the next batch for those of you who prefer your knives black. And there are a lot of them, actually. Black is still the best-selling knife handle color. It just works, looks good, and especially on a kind of knife with the tactical heritage of the Strider-designed PT. I think it looks really sweet. I'm gonna put the black down. We all know what an all-black knife looks like. The smoky gray PVD, excuse me, actually it's a DLC. The smoky gray looks fantastic. It's a subtle change, but given how the light reflects off of it, you either have like a really, really deep charcoal black or kind of like a warmer gray tone that comes through. Kind of preserves a little bit of the natural shine and shimmer of the steel underneath, which I really like as a fan of sharpened steel things myself. ProTech, I don't have to tell you that the action is fantastic. Hits really hard. You've got a spring that pushes the blade fully open every time. Yeah, a real wrist snapping action. You definitely want to make sure you're holding on to one of these good before you hit that button, because that blade will fly. The design, I think, is really great. It's kind of the most refined version of the PT from ProTech, or Strider for that matter. It's slightly bigger than the previous version, so the handle gives you accommodating grip in both the kind of choked back and the forward finger choil position. Big broad end of the handle here to kind of anchor in your pinky and ring finger for really confidence inspiring grip. This is definitely a compact knife that you can use hard, and that's part of why we chose Cru-Wear steel to go with it. Cru-Wear steel on ProTech is exclusive to the KnifeCenter. It is one of our favorite steels. You know, it kind of has a unique combination of really high toughness, really good edge retention, decent, it's not a stainless steel technically, but I'll just say, you know, from my personal experience, I've never had any problems with corrosion. In fact, I've seen more corrosion problems on steels like D2 or XHP than I have on Cru-Wear. So decent amount of stain resistance, at least in practice, as long as you keep it dry.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah. But the properties of the steel in terms of its cutting performance are fantastic. It's also one of my favorite steels to sharpen. It just takes a keen edge, holds it for a good long time. It's got the toughness to kind of really push hard. So these PT Pluses, both are $250, available now while supplies last. Okay, a couple more automatics on the table, the first of which is a new version of the Buck Deploy. This is a part of their Legacy collection. It's been upgraded. It's a limited for 2024 edition. So we've got a price tag of $375, S45 VN blade steel with a gray Cerakote finish, and marbled carbon fiber handles. Really beautiful configuration. You know, the black, gray, and gold all come together. Got a nice pop of color there from the backspacer too. Sort of subtle and sophisticated with a really reliable automatic action here. I love the pocket clips on these Buck Deploys. They're super deep carry, flush with the end of the knife, and totally ambidextrous. You can easily just remove that, flip it over, carry it left-handed if you wish. Of course, as you can see, we've got a safety here that prevents the blade from coming open, and also kind of double locks it in place when it's deployed. So you can use very aggressive pinch grips with ease. You're not going to have to worry about that button disengaging. Now the action here is not quite as fast as that ProTech, but I would say it's every bit as reliable. You still have, for example, good spring tension all the way to the stop pin that's going to keep that blade in position. Yeah, feels nice. Just a little bit more of a refined package. Made in the USA, of course. And yeah, really cool automatic EDC from Buck. Speaking of automatic EDCs, the latest version of the Benchmade Adamas is here. The Mini Adamas, to be specific. This is the auto version, coming in at $405 with marbled carbon fiber, MagnaCut steel, and really cool kind of tan, slightly bronzy gold colored liners and pocket clip. This colorway just looks fantastic, I gotta say. You know, since I have them both on the table here, it's kind of fun to compare. The marbled carbon fiber is very similar, but the gold tones on the Benchmade are much more subdued than they are on the Buck. Gives it a little bit more of a gentleman tactical vibe going on, if you know that oxymoron even makes sense to say. But it suits the knife. I think the design kind of walks the line between both use cases. You've got a generously sized handle, especially in this dimension. It's pretty broad, which is a good thing when you want a handle to fill your hand properly. But the overall dimensions are not huge. Blade length of just 3.25 inches. Nice graceful drop point. Designed by Shane Siebert, of course. The refinements to this generation of the Adamas have been small but meaningful. I think the handle's more comfortable than ever. The blades cut better than ever. And in this new auto version, it just looks so clean. There's no thumb stud in the way, just that beautiful fuller kind of stretching along the blade. The action hits pretty hard, kind of in between the strength of the buck and the ProTech. It does kind of snap your wrist a little bit. There is a safety here. You can't see it from this angle, but you can see it here. Spine mounted safety. It works to hold the blade open, and when closed, keep it from firing. So really like spine mounted safeties and automatics. It's a nice subtle way to do it while still maintaining the functionality. And yeah, this is a perfectly functional, beautifully functional even, Benchmade knife that just happens to also look amazing. Next up might actually be the most functional knife on the table today, at least if we're just counting pure features. This is the HK First Response. If you've seen a knife that looks like this before, you are correct. That would be the Hogue Trauma. This is a version of that made by Hogue for HK with a couple little changes, mostly in the blade shape. The Hogue Trauma has a very kind of snub-nosed sheep's foot blade. This HK version maybe turns up the tactical dial a little bit with this drop point with a swedge for a nice acute tip. That's gonna make it a little bit better, kind of all-arounder. You know, anytime you do want some penetrating power for your cuts, this shape's gonna work much better than the sheep's foot on the original Hogue version. You got Hogue's fantastic crossbar lock, very smooth and rock solid for sure. But let's talk about those other features on here. First of all, you've got an O2 wrench in the scale there. You've got a secondary strap cutter, kind of a hook cutter for safe use against clothing or skin or any time you want to cut something without getting the tip involved. And right there at the back, a glass breaker. So this is a rescue tool through and through. The color scheme kind of is made to match, black and red going on. Definitely feels like an EDC made for firefighters, paramedics, police officers, really any first responder, I think is going to get a lot of legitimate uses out of this tool. But thanks to the tweak in the blade shape, you know, if you just want to carry a super capable folding knife that has some rescue features integrated in a way that don't get in the way of the knife's primary cutting purpose, this is might be the best option out there right now, frankly. Ergonomics are comfortable for sure, very locked in. Got a little scallop here for the pinky, one for the first finger. Do a good job of anchoring that handle in place. Oh, the other big upgrade with these is the blade steel. Can't believe I didn't say this yet. We've got S45 VN. So where the original Hogues had, I want to say N690 or something, S45 VN is going to be a big upgrade over that. You got the power of the powder metallurgy process to give you that extra edge retention. Yeah, just a fantastic option here for $216. Next is another new crossbar locking knife from Knafs. This is the Lander 3. So the Lander 3, it basically takes the Lander 1 and adds a crossbar lock and S35 VN blade steel to give you a totally upgraded package. Let's focus on this cool blue one, which Knafs is calling Horizon Blue, kind of a nice warm grayish blue, steel blue, if you will. This color combo I think looks fantastic. I believe they've also maybe coated the liners with some sort of subtle bronze color. really nice looking color combo. And yeah, like I said, if you liked the Lander 1, but wanted something that didn't have budget blade steel or budget, locking mechanism, not that a liner lock's necessarily budget, but I think most people would agree that a crossbar lock is a sweet upgrade. It's just as easy to use, but it's ambidextrous, it's stronger, and you don't need to put your fingers in the path of the blade when you're closing it. In fact, you don't even need to use the thumb stud at all to open it. You can just fling it open straight out of the pocket like that. Yeah, this is a real refined EDC package. Blade length on these is 2.75 inches. Slightly on the smaller side, but designed very purposefully to be easy to carry, easy to take anywhere that has, a sub 3-inch blade requirement. It still maximizes the blade length available with a really clean grind that comes back almost all the way to the handle there. And you've got just enough handle to get a great grip on. I can do 4 fingers on this thing, no problem, in a fist, in a pinch grip. I still have the pinky maybe coming off a little bit, but my hands are not quite larger than average, so I think most people are gonna have no problem getting a grip on this knife. The simple handle shape just is gonna work for everybody. These are in stock at the moment in all black or horizon blue, $125. And if neither of these, handle materials works for you, they should be very easy to swap to other materials. I'm sure Knafs is going to have some new options coming soon. If you want to make your own, you can look up the plans for these online, 3D print something. So anybody can make scales for this and even sell them. We carry a bunch of different options right now on the site for the original Lander in terms of new scales. Those aren't going to work on this because of that crossbar lock, but I'm sure more options are coming soon. Next up is a whole new series from Case, and I'm using this folding hunter to show off the Denim micarta handles. These are looking beautiful. I really like the Denim micarta on this new series. They've done a good job of actually nailing that denim blue. It's deceptively tricky to find a true blue denim micarta. A lot of companies either go too teal with it or too kind of rough and canvassy. I think this is about the best I've seen that really captures the look of a beautiful pair of blue jeans. And you've got that awesome rustic grip of micarta here too. So whether you pick a huge folding hunter like this with its 5.3-inch blade, or one of the smaller options, your typical trappers, stockmans, etc., on a handle with a lot of shiny polished surfaces, I think that micarta is just the ticket for getting a great grip. And so whichever one you pick, you can't go wrong. This one is $88. I believe other options are right around that price range. You can't go wrong with this. They've got the Case's stainless steel, nice slip joint action, good stiff springs here, and man, that is just a big old slip joint, isn't it? Got a couple more slip joints on the table, 2 new ones from Serge Panchenko. Now, stock on these is very limited, but I wanted to show them off just because I legitimately think these are really sweet modern slip joints. This one is called the Slip 5. It comes in at $150. We've got M390 steel, a 2.7-inch blade length, and bronze anodized handles. I think Serge's kind of slip joint series do a really good job of bringing original designs that are still faithful to a kind of slip joint heritage, if you will, but with features that people really want in a modern knife, like a pocket clip. The action on these is fantastic. As you can see, we've got a half stop, and even though there's hardly anything to grab when that blade is closed, you can still pinch it open, get in there real easily. Check out the point on this clip point too. Super narrow, super precise. The grinds on these are really keen, so you're getting that, slicing performance that real slip joint aficionados, you know, kind of look for. Yeah, beautiful work here. Big fan of the Slip 5. And I might be an even bigger fan of this one. This is the Slip 7. So here we've got mostly the same materials, M390 steel, 2.7-inch blade length, but these are Nebula fat carbon scales, which give it a really, really featherweight feel. I mean, there's no liners in here. We've just got the steel back spring, the steel blade, a titanium pocket clip, and then full carbon fiber handles. So, boy, how much does this knife weigh? It's gotta be 1.64 ounces. Yeah. That is a featherweight for sure. And in the pocket, it's gonna practically disappear. The spring on this though is still super stiff, which I like. Because there's more to grab onto, the spring is nice and stiff. Really gonna keep that blade open in use, give you the confidence to do some serious work with this, and the keen edge geometry to get it done. These are sweet. I don't think they're gonna last long. Apologies if they're sold out by the time you see this, but hey, I didn't get one either, and we get to appreciate it together. In keeping with the dressy feel of these slip joints, we've got a couple of cool ones from Maserin. This is the Arno 500, and it is not got a pocket clip, even though it is a locking knife, and it comes with a leather pocket slip. So, very gentlemanly, sort of discreet way to carry your knife, but it is a fully modern folder here. We've got, you know, Torx screws holding the pivot together, a liner lock, and one-handed deployment with a single-sided thumb stud. These start at $120, and I believe go up to $140 for one of the burl wood versions. This has olive wood scales. These are a little smaller in person than I was picturing them from the website. Maybe that says more about me than it does about the knife, but it is a nice, deft little folder. The handles are really nicely contoured though, so you've got a hand-filling grip that feels pretty warm from the natural wood material, if that makes sense. A very refined kind of feel overall, and a beautiful look as well. Check out the detail on the backspacer there. Really nice file work. Probably not actual file work, but some nice sort of filigree anyway. Yeah, smooth opening, but a little too stiff to flick out probably. Oh, no, never mind. That was my first try. It worked fine, so I'm sure some of you will be able to do that as well. And then one other interesting detail, the liner lock, even though you can see the liner the whole way along here, it still is kind of like nested within itself. It's very interesting. It gives it a dressy look and really demonstrates exactly where you need to grab it to disengage the liner lock. Pretty cool. I don't think I've seen anything like that before, actually. Yeah, if you're looking for a, I don't know, shall we say, European style carry with this pocket slip, dressy, discreet, but modern folder, this is a pretty cool option. Next up is the Maserin 381 Mini-Gourmet. Now, we've got a bunch of versions that just hit the site. This is the fanciest of them all, with roses, small roses Damascus blade steel and fat carbon handles. This one comes in at $230, but simpler versions with 1.4116 and wood scales come in at just $86. So you can go super fancy or you can go more affordable with these. It's the same style of carry as that other Maserin. These come with a nice leather pocket slip, but even more kind of elegant and streamlined here. Yeah, that's what I'm going with. We've got a front flipper for deployment. You can flick it out, although there's no jimping there to catch your thumb as long as you get the right angle. Pops open. I gotta say, pocket clips are a must-have on a modern knife, but there is no denying that they make a knife more uncomfortable across the board. Just getting rid of the pocket clip here on this design reminds me of how nice a folding knife can feel in the hand without that pocket clip sticking out. It is a very refined feel, and this to me says like gentleman's steak knife all over it. Especially coming out of a leather pocket slip in a restaurant or something like that, I think would really kind of elevate the experience. A very cool design for a sleek and sophisticated knife. But speaking of sophisticated, these new Sebenzas from Chris Reeve are looking so good. And I think there's a part of me that put this so far down the list because I sort of selfishly want to buy one of these and can't afford to at the moment. So I'm hoping they stick around for a couple weeks because these are gorgeous.
And they're gone.
Probably. Save me one. This, of course, is the Sebenza 31 with a polished MagnaCut blade, polished handles, and bog oak inlays. These come in at $750, but man, if this isn't the coolest Sebenza I've seen in a while. I really like that they decided to do the wood inlay versions with the polished handles, kind of like they used to. May not come across in camera, but there's just something kind of extra luminous about these knives. The contrast between the glass blasted, chamfers and edges of the handle, the blasted lock bar there, and then the brushed and polished flats of the handle and the polished blade. It really elevates the Sebenza and shows off the beautiful new inlays on the 31. The previous generation had 2 pieces of inlay on the show side of the handle, which was a really cool look, but I think the new kind of inlay shape on the 31 is perfect for the wood. You know, you get a big chunk of that wood grain there, a nice graceful shape, and it does change the ergonomics too. It feels more hand-filling, it is slightly wider, and it also kind of buries the pocket clip a little bit. So we've got an inlay on this side that sort of skirts around the pocket clip slightly, and so in hand, it sort of eases and softens that those angles into the pocket clip, meaning you don't feel it as much. So super comfortable. The inlaid versions are fantastic. Of course, there is sort of an upcharge for them, but man, this is a sweet Sebenza. And if you agree, you should get your orders in now because we don't have a ton of these. Okay, it's fixed blade time. And to start with, we've got a new work Tuff dropping today. The first of 2 new work Tuffs dropping today. This is the Nymph Gen 2, and it is $145. So this, to me, screams EDC fixed blade. Despite the relatively generous blade stock thickness and full tang construction, we've got some skeletonization, obviously, with this big hole in the handle to reduce weight. The balance on these is super nice, and the ergonomics are surprisingly comfortable. Even though we've got these little shorty handles here, the crowned spine goes a long way to making this super comfortable in hand, and the sheath goes a long way to making a really compelling EDC package. So we've got Kydex, snaps in with authority, really good retention there. But my favorite thing about this sheath is the kind of exit ergonomics. Even before it comes out of the sheath, I've got 3.5, almost 4 fingers on the actual handle, and I can get it out with just one hand. Just push with the thumb, sheath comes out easy. You know, for an EDC fixed blade, for something you're gonna want to carry every day, if it's EDC, the sheath makes a huge difference, and Work Tuff have provided an excellent one here. So I don't think I mentioned the blade steel yet. 3.1 inches of N690, and these were designed by Jeremy Valentine of Valavian Edgecraft. Hope I'm saying that right, Jeremy. But the overall design is super cool. You know, you've got some thickness to it to be a little rough with this, you know, should you need to use it on some harder tasks, but a good balance, a good lightness to really live with day to day. Super cool package here from Work Tuff. So before we get to the second Work Tuff dropping today, the biggest, baddest knife on this table by far, let's talk about these new Reiff fixed blades, which are pretty big and bad in their own right, actually. So this is the S5. S for Scandi, 5 for 5 inches of blade. These are made in the USA from CPM 3V steel and a nice selection of micarta handle scales. This one comes in at $359. And for that, you've got a really capable, highly refined, do-it-all companion fixed blade. I'm gonna hold up the other one here. This is the F5. I really like that they've given you an option on blade grinds. So we've got a true Scandinavian grind here and a saber grind here. So whichever way your own kind of outdoor needs lean towards, they've got you covered. If you want something that is a little more optimized for carving, for fine woodwork, for fine edge work in general, definitely go with the Scandi grind. The edge geometry here is fantastic. There's no secondary bevel whatsoever. Just a hint of a little, final polish on this thing, but man, it is a keen factory edge. Going to be fantastic for those powerful push cuts through wood, for any kind of carving, goes without saying. The handle is nice, generously sized. I wouldn't call it oversized, but it's definitely generous. Fills the hand in this dimension. It's got a good length for, moving around on, for choking back a little bit, to do a little light chopping. Very refined shape here. Got that Coke bottle silhouette. Fantastic fit and finish. Everything feels finger flush with the tang. This is a beautiful, beautiful American-made, I almost said survival knife. This version maybe not so survival-y, because this version exists. With the Scandi grind, you're going to get a lot more survival chops. The edge is going to be thicker with its secondary bevel. Some would say arguably easier to sharpen. Some folks say that Scandis are easier to sharpen. I don't know, I think it depends on the person. But the blade stock on this version is also a little thicker as well, which Reiff have told me actually that they're very detail oriented about these things, and they made the blade stock thicker on this version not just because a Scandi grind is a little better suited to things like batoning or other super hard survival applications, but also to affect the balance of the knife. So with more steel removed up here, you need a little bit of extra thickness to keep the balance point in a nice neutral position. And so this thinner Scandi ground version also has that same neutral balance. Very nicely done. Reiff just has that extra level of attention to detail. And that comes through on the sheaths too. So each one of these knives is available both with a leather sheath or a Kydex sheath. Again, just to suit whichever fits your needs better. And the price is the same on both versions too. Both are $359. So whichever way you want to go, Reiff has you covered. 100% made in the USA. These are truly some of the most refined survival or outdoor fixed blades you can get right now. Speaking of refined, that is probably not the word I would use to describe this knife. This is the Nomad Camp 9 by Work Tuff. These are also dropping today, and the price is $265. Now, I mean, I could use the word refined to describe the way that this knife was made. Work Tuff does, very precise, very excellent work, and you can see that in the way that the handle is perfectly mated to the tang, in the highly, highly polished edges that they put on their knives, in the crisp and even spine. The details are refined, but this design is not so gentle. This is a chopper through and through, especially because this version doesn't have the finger choil that some of these do, so you can't even really choke up for a finer balance on these. This is just all about forward weight, chopping, almost kukri-like with its negative angle there. Yeah, this thing is a beast, and it would be a ton of fun to take out to your next camp, outdoor adventure, just even around the backyard. Such a cool design here. I really do like the whole camp series, but the 9 especially is just such a well-balanced beast. With 10 inches of K340 steel, you've got plenty of reach, plenty of toughness to back up all that rough work you're going to be doing with this. Really nicely shaped handle as well, super comfortable. Nice flare at the back to catch you when you're swinging and chopping this thing. It's got a pretty good balance for fine work right here. If you get your thumb up onto that spine there, into that little divot that accommodates it, and squeeze your fingers up towards the front of the handle, I could definitely do a little carving with that part of the edge. Maybe not for hours at a time, but I could get it done for sure, and then get back to chopping. Yeah, this thing is really cool. Sheath on this is Kydex, as you can see. Nice, it's got the same solid snap to it that other Work Tuff did. Big broad sheath. This is just about as big of a knife as I'd want to actually carry on my belt. It's really heavy, it might bring my pants down a little bit, but it's still a knife, right? It's still not quite into machete territory, and that's what makes this class of tool so fun to use. It really can do big stuff, small stuff, and kind of dance between the two, and it's just fun to use. So if that sounds like something you want to experience, definitely check these out. Work Tuff, they'll revisit these patterns, but they rarely make the same knife twice. So especially if you like the way that this one looks, the colors, the materials, don't sleep on this. These will sell out sooner rather than later. Well, that about does it for this week's new knives video. Love to hear what you thought about any of these in the comments, and if you'd like to get your hands on any of them, check out the links in the description. They will take you to KnifeCenter.com, where you can place an order. And don't forget about our Knife Rewards program as well, because if you're going to spend any of your money on any of these awesome knives, might as well get some points to spend on your next one too. And with that, I've been Seth V for the Knife Center. I'll see you next time.